What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today we are looking at the PGL Major Copenhagen 2024 Elimination stage, I believe it's called. I will show you the opening stage lineup, so pretty good. I was top 10% or top 8%, I believe, before this last round. Unfortunately, Roman didn't do too well in that game, or so just in general. Means I dropped down to the top 20%. Let's go actually look at my overall fantasy leaderboard thing. I'm in 391st, so I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. That is out of, what, a lot of teams. 40,000 teams, the 400, so that's like the top 1%-ish. I'm very happy with that. Of course, there's going to be a lot of people who are like playing only a couple events, but still. Will I be able to come back and fight for these places? Probably not, right? I would need a couple 25 pointers, and I haven't had any of them so far. If you look at my placements so far, there's just these are just consistent for the most part, except for the NARMR, unfortunately, which went super weird. Just in general, I'm very happy with this season and the way I've played. I've made very solid lineups that have had like the chance to get even higher points. Unfortunately, that hasn't panned out so far, but who knows? Maybe this is gonna be one of those events where I picked all the correct players. These are the most picked players for this event. I'll close this. Most picked players for this event. You can see like 5 IGLs, 6 IGLs inside the top 8. So I assume this is gonna mean a lot of people want to go for a couple of those higher cost players. Honestly, I mean, going for IGLs is one of my favorite strategies just in general. I think going for IGLs usually is just low risk, slightly lower reward, but they can even be like super. Sometimes the IGLs just get the 1.0 rating on a Carrigan and you're gonna be super happy. We can look, if you didn't watch my last video, I went over my pick'ems, and that should give you a pretty good idea of how I think each of the teams is going to do. Not big surprises here, just in general complexity I don't expect to do too well. So I have them going 0-3 actually. And then I would say FaZe Clan, Spirit, Vitality, Mouse, and maybe G2 are my favorites going into this stage. Let's look at the prices. I've had a look at them before. I would say FaZe Clan actually very fair prices. Rain at 203. I remember he was, I think, 200k in one of the events where I felt like I just had to pick him because he was so cheap. 203 is still very cheap for him, to be honest. So I might have to take a look at that. Frozen 217 for the best player on FaZe, or the highest rated player. It's very fair. I think any FaZe player is looking pretty decent. Honestly, even Rops 213. I don't mind that. From Spirit, I think everyone is looking a bit more fair again. Like Magic's, even Zontic's coming down a bit. He was more expensive in past events. I think Shiro is probably the standout here though. Like 220 for him, to me, sounds very good. Although, I have to say, in the last event, I felt like he was kind of missing a lot of shots that I wouldn't expect him to miss. Like, I just the way I was looking at the game, he was still putting up pretty decent stats, but he was also not playing to his best ability. And maybe if he plays to that level again, he might get more punished. I think Donk is 250 is doable as a price. Like, you have to go for multiple IGLs, but just I don't think I would go for that personally. I think there's too many good options at lower prices here. I think the same can be maybe said for Zaiwu. I don't really know. I think 8 grand between Donk and Zaiwu. I would go for Donk rather than Zaiwu. I am less certain about Vitality doing well than Spirit. But other than that, I think there's really good options on Vitality, like Spinks for 209k. Somehow Flames has more expensive than him. I would say Spinks is just the better pick still. Messi, for that high headshot percentage or support round, I think just makes a lot of sense. He's at least in my initial draft. At Apex, of course, makes a lot of sense as well, especially now he's, again, a bit cheaper. If you just expect Vitality to do well. Mouse prices are super low again. I think Torji is, again, the player who I'm looking at the most. He's got really high potential to frag. They have a pretty easy first opponent in Ecstatic. At least they should beat them. And then like Shuhei for 184 is pretty ridiculous in my opinion. Like, you can fit him in, and this duo allows for a lot of great combinations. Then G2, I would really like Monasi, to be honest. Like, those stats he's been putting up lately, insane. Like, he's clearly the best player on G2 right now. Nico's had a bit of a better time after as of late. But I don't know, I don't have faith in G2, not enough faith at least. Go for them, to be honest. Then there's a lot of teams who I think have potential, like Navi's potential 3-1, maybe even 3-0. But I wouldn't probably personally go there. I think there's still too much volatility there. I don't mind VP, but the problem with VP to me is just that their prices are still a bit too much maybe for me to consider them in this. Like, I would probably go for a Fame lineup if I wanted to go for VP, but I don't know. I see them as a 3-2 team, I suppose, here, but I might be underestimating VP. It might be one of those things where I just always will underestimate them slightly. I just have been burned by them before, and I don't want to get burned again. I feel like there's safer options, I guess. About 9, I wouldn't go towards, especially for these prices. I don't think it's worth it. Like, Electronic 207k looks really nice, but also he was way worse than Boomish last stage, so make of that what you will. Heroic, they have such a nice, like, 209k for nerds, but these prices are just in general pretty low. I think that's what you have to just accept, is that players are just cheap for this event. And you can make really good lineups, so you shouldn't just think that you have to pick like a nerds for 209k, where like that might be the case in a different event, just because like he's got super high potential upside, and that's a very cheap price for him. Same could be maybe said for Elish, but as I said, I don't expect much from Complexity. If I thought Complexity was a better team, I would be looking at Elish. Dude, Zantares for 215 is so sick. He was really good last stage, but I don't know. I think every team when we go down here is just less worth it. I wouldn't go towards them. Sorry, I'm a bit tired already. It's pretty late local time, and I had to watch the Furia game to know what the bracket is actually looking like. So my first draft that I made was because I thought mouse players are super cheap, and I want to have double spirit here. I think that's something I really want, is double spirit. So this was just my like first idea of a draft, and I think if I don't think of something better, and I look at this, I'll just go with this. The roles work really well. Like Messi, he's so good with 2 different roles. Shiro as Auper, or Torji with Auper and Shiro as like Saver. Chopper with like SMG and Shui as IGL or something like that. Works really well. I think you could go towards like FaZe instead. Something like this. Maybe you'd actually go towards like a Zontix instead, and then you can go Messi. That looks very good as well. There's so many good looking lineups. Like this looks really good. I think I have to just decide which teams I want to go for. Base Clan is not as highly picked as I thought. Like Kerrigan Rain, yeah. But I think a lot of people won't go for like a Frozen maybe. But also I think Mouse is a team that might be underpicked here. Like Yashu is highly picked, but a lot of people are probably going like 1x Shui and then something like this. I don't know, probably someone better. But I think a lot of people are just going only Shui from Mouse, and I think that's the kind of safer lineup. Let's look at the potential opponents. So I do think I want to go double Spirit. I don't think, even though they do have slightly more difficult opponents, even if they like make it through. Playing Cloud9 first is not an easy opponent. I think it could go pretty tight. I also think that with Spirit G2, maybe it's actually not worth it to go even for Spirit. Maybe you just go like Face Clan Mouse and 1x Vitality, or even Face Clan Vitality 1x Mouse. Pretty interesting, pretty interesting. Spinks is pretty highly picked. I don't really disagree with that either. Like 200, same as goes as for nerds. And I guess Vitality is a more stable lineup, and I do think Spinks is a better player. Could go for Zaiwu lineup. Man, I'm second guessing myself a bit more here. Who have like the easiest first opponents? Like Mouse has Ecstatic, and I think Ecstatic goes 0-3. So logically, I think that just should mean a double up on Mouse makes sense. They also don't have an like they're slight favorites in the second matchup in my eyes. EP have Imperial. It's hard because like one result going the other way. I think the only match I can really look at is the first round and who they play first round. I think that's the most important thing to look at. Of course, going Face Spirit would mean that they almost never play against each other in these ladder stages. What would a Face Spirit lineup look like? I think Chopper and Kerrigan are almost always in it, but let's look at Chopper Rain. Then I would think I want to have like Frozen if I go Face. I think I want to have Shiro if I go Spirit. 189 doesn't really allow for someone I'd super want. What if I go Brokey? Doesn't quite have enough for Messi then. Messi is so much more worth it than Apex to me. Norbert's not a bad shout. Necessarily, at least. No, I don't think so. In terms of these guys. Like, I had that Dontix lineup earlier. Like this with Messi. This is like safer. You have to double up on Spirit. I do still think Spirit are the strongest team going into this event. Even if they play Cloud9, I do think Cloud9, like, they're still favored against Cloud9 for sure. I was just thinking about it from the point of view of, okay, Face Clan, Heroic. I guess all of these are slightly difficult matchups, honestly. Face, Heroic, Team Vitality, EF. And then Mouse Ecstatic should be the easiest one of these. That's why I was looking at a double Mouse draft. Yes, it's not quite enough for Chopper Shiro here. That would be kind of a cool lineup though. But what if you go Rain? Yeah. Not enough for that either quite. Or is he the second cheapest guy on Mouse? Like, kind of crazy to think about. Going phaseless is also a slight risk here for sure. But also we've seen them go a bit slow. I think honestly that lineup I had earlier, I'm a pretty big fan of it. Oh, not Brolan. Shui and Percy. Just uses my money so well. This is like my first draft. I get to be a bit of a mouse fanboy with Impat on the team. I do think Spirit is the strongest team going into, as I said. The number one team that can hurt me here is FaZe. I do think Mouse is also not the safest pick, but also they are very cheap. And then Mezzi, I do think Mouse almost always makes it through though. Like, I think 3-2 should be the worst result for them almost. I think this is just the team for me. So Vitorji on the op, 0 on Amper. I've actually looked at these roles before us already. There's IGL Shui and just hope that they go like 2-0 early. Chopper on the eco-friendly, and then Messi. Is it support or is it headshots? It's headshots. These roles are really good, especially if Shui does well here. Like, the problem with Shui is like he has really poor roles unless you go for exactly IGL, I think. But he's also so cheap that it doesn't really matter. So I think this is the lineup. I'll do the same thing with boosters. I'm sorry guys if you like to watch me put my boosters on. I'll do it off video. I'll make a slight Excel sheet, and then I will decide the boosters based on that. And you will see the first boosters anyway if you go click the link in my description, and that it just directly links to my team. I believe that should show my boosters. Yeah, this is the team. Let's hope we continue doing as well as I have for the last few events. And let's hope it's going to be a good major. I really am looking forward to this upcoming stage. The last stage, we had a lot of teams that I'm not that into. A few teams that I am interested in seeing how well they do, but this upcoming stage is the super interesting part. Either way, if you enjoy this kind of content, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.